Okay, welcome back, guys. Hi, I'm Nick Cassiotti. This is Cassiotti News. I am your non-party affiliated host. Today, we have amazing guests for you to get an awesome, diverse view. We've got Joe, our Green Party member in Idaho. We've got Rez, he's our Democrat progressive in Florida. We've got Richard, he is in Wisconsin with the Republican Party. And we've got Angela, she is our Libertarian in California. So topic number one today, Joe Biden has nominated Representative Deb Haaland as Interior Secretary, the first Native American to hold a cabinet position. What is her past experience, Joe? And what does this mean to the nation moving forward? Green Party, go ahead.
Okay, Deb Haaland is actually an extremely good pick. As a representative from New Mexico, she's one of the first Indigenous women to be elected to Congress. In addition to that, she's done a lot of work inside the communities in New Mexico and on the reservations down there. This makes her particularly well placed because the Department of Interior is also responsible for all of the bureaus associated with Indian Affairs, including the Bureau of Indian Affairs, as well as many others that deal with lands related to the reservations in many cases, much like the case with Oklahoma that just came up, where the Supreme Court awarded most of Oklahoma back to, I believe, the Cherokee. So this puts her in a real good position. She has recognized leadership among First Nations in the United States. She's got experience. She's extremely well qualified for the position. So moving forward, I think he finally made a great pick. The one thing I worry about is whether or not Biden's going to screw up his speech by tokenizing her, saying that, you know, the Indigenous community, the First Nations finally get, you know, representation in with the cabinet seat.
So Rez, pushing back on that, the Republicans would argue that this is just tokenism, that he just made a pick to fulfill that check that box.
Well, I don't believe Biden, President-elect Biden, has done anything to support that argument. He hasn't. He's made his picks based on what he believes will help, take this country forward. He hasn't, in my opinion and the opinions of many others, engaged in any sort of tokenism. The reason why this pick is so well done, and it's such a great pick, is because as the Green Party member said, it is, this representative is part of the Indigenous community, so she will be able to appropriately understand their needs and be able to cater to them much better than what we've had in the last 4 years. And another reason why she's such a good pick is because, as Biden promised, we're going to be transitioning from fossil fuel energy, and this representative is well positioned to help Biden with that task.
Richard, moving forward, are we looking at somebody who's really going to take a lot of action and have a transformative effect on the United States?
Well, I look at this, I personally believe the Interior Secretary is actually so much more important than what we give credit for. A big question that I have is, coming into her new role, I'm not very familiar with the goal and the long-term vision of a Biden administration for that Interior Secretary position. With Donald Trump, when he was being elected during the elections, it was very clear what his two objectives were. It was, we're going to utilize our natural resources, and number two, we're going to clean up the Great Lakes and we're going to regenerate them. So coming into that, it was a little bit more clear. But coming into with Deb here, I think it's I'm okay with. I think it's a good pick. I think because honestly, we all know she doesn't have any kind of experience working in geology or any kind of like land management. She was a governor in New Mexico. I live in New Mexico. She's a great person, but overall, though, she's a great person. I think what she's going to bring that's a little bit more unique would be the Pueblo people and the Navajo people, because of course we all know there's a lot of tension right now going on between those two tribes in New Mexico and also in the West Coast. I mean, the Navajos, they've been getting the short stick for a long time. For some reason, the Pueblos, they can win the elections. And honestly, if you don't win the elections, you don't get to say anything. So I hope that she can reduce that tension a little bit. She gave out 3 tollways to the Navajos, and they are really saying this is our private land here. But I understand you are where you're from, and you're going to have to represent your own people in some kind of a way.
Angela, as a libertarian, does this show diversity in the right direction?
What's the right direction? I really appreciate diversity of thought. I'm not very interested in diversity of gender or skin color. I think that people should achieve their positions based on the merits of their work. There are plenty of things that people have mentioned that could be potentially good about this placement, this cabinet pick. At least Deb has some business experience. I guess she was overseeing business on one of the largest tribal gaming enterprises in New Mexico. I can appreciate that. Doesn't look like she has much experience overseeing energy, land, resources like that. And so I'm a little bit concerned that jamming a progressive agenda into a position like this could create some problems for the energy resources that we already really depend on. I appreciate experimental renewable energy. I'd love to see that stuff happen, but not at the expense of crippling what we are already dependent upon.
Rez, how do you respond to our libertarian Angela?
Well, look, diversity of thought is important, but the only way we're going to get diversity of thought is actually promote diversity. Number one, so it's not just a matter of difference of opinion, but also difference of lived experiences. Representative Haaland, what she brings to the table is that she actually knows what indigenous communities go through. Part of the job of the Interior Secretary is that you oversee federal lands, and including Native American communities. And the big difference between the last administration is that we're going to finally see a transition from fossil fuel energies to renewable energies. And in my opinion, I feel like with the Biden administration, you're not going to have an administration that are gung ho about drilling in federal land, because eventually we're going to have to transition into renewable energy, and that time is right now. And another big thing is that we have an administration that actually believes in climate change, and I think that's a big deal. And that's a big difference from our last administration.
Sure. So Joe, as a Green Party member, I mean, from what we're understanding here, especially throughout this debate, if other Green Party members are watching this right now, are they getting a good feeling out of Representative Deb Haaland?
As a Green Party member, they absolutely are. One of the problems, though, that we step back and realize is that the Biden administration is a strong proponent of nuclear energy. And one of the problems across the United States right now is there is an awful lot of indigenous tribes that are actually living on top of uranium ore. So this represents a Trojan horse in one aspect, in that she can actually go in and negotiate with the indigenous, with the First Nations, for those tribal lands and for the mining rights for the uranium ore, in order to keep our nuclear power plants running. And of course, if you're green, you're anti-nuclear. So it definitely bears watching.
Richard, as the Republicans that are watching this as well, I'll give you the final word. How do you respond to the other guests?
Well, I would say my final word would be, my biggest question for the new Interior Secretary is, will Canada be a part of the U.S. energy plan going forward? Because I think myself and a lot of other people were disappointed in the Keystone Pipeline, because I don't think the United States has any room for sour crude oil. The United States, we want light, sweet crude. Don't have to refine it. I mean, that's how the United States is going to become the green capital of the world, which is what we're already doing. And so I think the energy and the momentum that we have right now, I don't think Canada has any, they really don't have a place right now within the United States in our supply chain. I think one of my wild predictions would be that I think Alberta will be the 51st state of the United States, because they do have fracking, which is the lightest, sweetest crude oil that you can have. That is great for the environment. So that's why I'm so happy about it, and I'm such a proponent for it. But overall, I think that's a big question. Will Canada be part of our industrial policy going forward? I was disappointed in the Keystone. I didn't want that pipeline. I don't want Canadian oil in our supply chain. It's dirty, and it doesn't belong with the direction that we're going to.
I appreciate all of you guests coming on today. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, make sure you hit that subscribe button. We've got additional content linked right up there, and we've got our next couple of topics coming at you right now. Thanks, guys. Bye.